Have you tried diet after diet without finding long-term success? Well, believe it or not, it's not you. So many people think they know what they need to do to get healthy, but there's so much misinformation out there that many of us are sabotaging our health goals without even knowing it. Hi, I'm Carrie, a wife, mom, educator, and certified nutrition coach. After being frustrated by dieting and all the confusion out there about what actually works, I decided to figure it out. And what I discovered on my journey challenged everything I thought I knew about nutrition. And the solution is actually much simpler than you realize. So now, I'm on a mission to disrupt everything you think you know about nutrition too. Welcome to the Diet Disruptors Podcast. Well, hey, Diet Disruptors, Carrie here. And whenever I get to do a podcast episode with another person, it always makes me very happy because I don't have to do it all by myself. But this person makes me super, super happy. I love to bring on clients who I also consider family to be able to share their stories. Their stories will give hope to your story, knowing that what's possible and what can be around the corner when we show up for ourselves. And so today we have Cathie. Hi, Cathie.
Hello.
Oh, I'm
Glad to
so
be
happy.
here.
Well, I got a fellow curly girl too.
Yeah.
So it always makes me happy. Just before we came on, we were talking about our curly hair routines, which is always like the most important thing to talk about first, right?
Of course. Get it out of the way so it doesn't get in the way later.
Yeah, but curly girls got to like talk about their, their systems and their processes because it's been a struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been
Especially
a
growing up
journey.
curly in the 70s.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's so funny because like I fought my curls my whole life until I was almost 40. And then I finally was like, I went to my first curly girl salon in New York City and they didn't straighten my hair. They didn't blow it out.
Oh,
And they like embraced it and they celebrated it. And I had no idea that my hair was something to celebrate. And it was from that point forward where I was like, oh my gosh, sometimes when we just embrace our differences, our uniqueness as a gift, instead of constantly wishing it could be different, it allows,
yes.
I think, the true beauty to come through. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true about our bodies. I think it's true about our hair, our personalities. We just gotta be us. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Love it. So let's do a little like, I don't know, walk through time where we can
Okay.
go back to when we first met you, how you
Mm-hmm.
found us, and kind of what was going on. And how long ago was that?
It's only been since March.
I know.
Yeah.
It's only been
Like
like
it
April,
feels
May,
like such a long
like
time
less
ago.
than 3 months. And this is
Yeah.
why I think it's so cool because I love bringing on people who have been with us for years and still living a lifestyle and like thriving. But to be able to see how different life is for you in such a short
Mm-hmm.
amount of time gets me really excited too. So tell us about
Yep.
when you first found us. How did you find me?
I found you on Instagram,
On the
honestly.
Instagram.
Yes, and it was one of those where I had, in the last 2 years, you know, it just stuff, like just for so many people, especially women, between the shutdown and all the chaos that was, I had kids at home and in school, and, all of a sudden, our lives completely changed. And then I feel like I never regained momentum afterwards.
Mhm.
It was just almost, I was like stuck in my own little box, even though the world opened up around me. I feel like I didn't.
Yeah.
And
I've
with
heard
people
that a
going back
lot.
to school and
Mhm.
they're getting their stuff, and I was just gaining weight, going through menopause, all the things. So I actually started probably about a year ago, and I started like, oh, that gadget seems like kind of interesting. It was like a scale that measured like body weight and bone density. And then it was like, oh, but you get the scale, but then you have to buy the app.
Mhm.
Well, the app I didn't want to buy. So I got the scale, I got information, and then something else came out. I got the Lumen, which was like,
Mm.
oh, hack your metabolism. And I tried that. And honestly, I was faithful on that daily. and I saw no results.
Mm-hmm.
And not, I mean, and I'm like, wow, okay, am I doing something wrong? Because all my levels seem like they're working, but nothing. So then there was
And when you
something
say
else
like
that
no
came up.
progress, right? What were you looking for?
Um, like just losing weight and feeling better. Because
Mm-hmm.
I just, I would wake up in the morning and within an hour, I would be exhausted. Like I just wanted to go back to bed, but I
That
don't nap
is
well. So going back to
surefire
bed didn't
sign
help.
of health and blood sugar and all of that, right?
Absolutely. And,
Mhm.
and before, prior to kind of all the changes, I was a breakfast girl. I ate breakfast every morning.
Mhm.
Not necessarily good breakfast, but at least something. And over the shift, I was getting up and I was just drinking coffee, but then I wouldn't eat until 10, 12, 1, 2, and I wouldn't even
Mhm.
feel hungry. And I'm like, well, why I'm not even
And almost like
hungry
it's a
and I'm
badge of honor,
still.
right?
Totally. So all of that's just like it's not working. So then I start, so I thought there was something else on Instagram that I'm like, well, I'll try it. And it was like, pay us $100 and then, if you get through it and use whatever, then we'll try it. And it was literally like, here's your meal plan. And and I'm eating foods that it's like, well, I don't like your recipes, but I'll try it. And then, exercise and all this stuff. And again, I think I lasted like 2 weeks on that before I was like, yeah, this does not fit with anything I'm doing. And then there was
Because,
somebody else on
the things,
Instagram.
sorry to interrupt you, but the things
Yeah.
that I always talk about, right, are the three questions that you should ask before doing any nutritional advice. One, is it designed in science based for our body to thrive? Now, all of the things make it sound like it's designed for our body to thrive. They're not.
Yeah.
But then the other two, right, are would you let your kids do it? And can you do it for the rest of your life? And I would say that those other
Yeah.
pieces, right? Like, could you really answer yes to all that?
No, not at all.
Exactly.
And then there was another, and then on Instagram, because Instagram just starts feeding you all the things. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try something else. And it was just a video based thing. So, but it was another thing. It's like, well,
Yep.
and that one
Yep.
was like a key in on like, oh, balancing your hormones. And do you like, and I was just like, okay, so I tried it. That one. And it was just like so much and it was so boring. And you sit in front of a video, there's no interaction. And then there's a community that I'm not big on social media. I'm not big. I like scrolling a little bit, but I'm not really interactive. And so I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And
Yep.
then like as I was actually in the program, I saw you sitting on your counter and you're just, you're like leaning in and talking about, I'm like,
Oh, that was from
okay,
one of
well,
our,
that's
from one of our Instagram posts that we had.
it
Yes, yes,
was.
yes.
And it was leading into you had a 5-day challenge.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, that sounds a little different. And just the point, kind of having the coach. I think Beth was kind of interim coach for that one, and just kind of having that thing,
Yeah,
the
you had
daily
Beth for the
lessons.
5-day challenge because we
I
gave everybody
did.
a coach for the challenge,
Yep.
which was super
Yep.
cool. Yeah.
And but the stuff that you were saying wasn't necessarily anything new, but it was like oh yeah. But then you went even further into the explanation of the why,
Mhm.
the why, what are you doing? And the self-reflection piece.
Mhm.
Like, because I feel because I'm not a journaler, I'm not all those things, but that
Mhm.
self-reflection of actually looking at some kind of hard questions
Mhm.
and deciding it's like, um, do I want, well, yeah, that is something that I want, but are my actions, and all of those pieces kind of hit home. And I think I had to miss one or two of the live calls for like bam things or something.
During the 5-day
So the
challenge?
one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I came back to it, but then it was like, oh, I'm opening it up to this and I'm doing this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get in. Because
Mhm.
now all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
now I want
Yeah.
all this stuff that I'm learning, that next step. And I think you were very transparent about,
Yeah.
having skin in the game and being part of it and actually, you know, showing up for yourself. I mean, that
Mhm.
to me isn't being selfish. It isn't being, but it feels like it
I was gonna say,
until,
did you think it was selfish to would you
well,
have thought it was
no,
selfish?
I didn't think it was selfish, but there's kind of that feeling of, yeah, but, right?
Mhm.
But then, kind of crafting and going into that. what long term, like, what are you going to be long term? What do you want long term? What's my why? And
That's the
that was
big
where I was
question.
like, um, but the way it was framed during that 5-day challenge, it it struck something different, like
Mm,
completely different. And then you were talking, on one of the days you were talking about one of your clients who had gone through like back to back losses and was still making
Donna.
progress. And
Yep.
yeah, and all that stuff was just hitting because I'm in a point in my life where we're going through something really big with one of my kids, and
Mm,
all of this stuff is going on, and at the same time, I'm unmotivated, I'm not getting things done, I'm breaking, I have all these things that I want to do, that I really want to do, that I'm not doing because I'm just apathetic and kind of lethargic.
mhm.
And so yeah, and then just getting, then I'm like, oh wow, and then just and then getting to chat with you
I
on the
know.
intake
So it's
was
so
so
funny because when
fun.
we do a challenge like that, then we'll invite people to be able to do a call to learn more. And that was with me. Like, and I always say sometimes I'm like, sometimes you
Hmm.
might get me. And you
Hmm.
did.
And I did.
That was
So I
fun.
felt like, wow, I won the lottery.
Aw.
So, and then it was like, okay, so we can start. And it was even like there was a little bit of delayed gratification because I was going out of town. So I had
Yeah,
to
you
wait a
were
week.
going on vacation, right after you
Mm-hmm.
said yes to yourself, then you were like, I'm going on vacation, which was awesome, actually. No?
Yep. Yep. It was. It was.
Good way to
And even
celebrate.
since then, so I started, and I just absolutely adore Michelle. She's just such a good fit.
As your coach.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And
I mean, when you were talking about the other program that you did and it was like group coaching and stuff like that, I mean, there's like a small I love our community that we have, but talk about like what does it mean to have somebody like a coach Michelle K, because she's incredible. And she's
mhm.
like on your side, somebody that's there for you. How is it different than other stuff that you've tried and why did it matter?
Well, there's different, because in that last program there wasn't really coaching. It was a video. There wasn't really
Right.
anybody
Got
who
it.
was sitting in. But honestly, having someone who is just on the other side of a text or a phone call, or the willingness of like, hey, something's going on. Hey, let's
Mhm.
do a Zoom. Let's just kind of dive in. And there's not only the accountability piece, which I really needed, of the, all right, come on, we're doing this. And then if you're willing, then go ahead and share it with me. And it's not a forced thing, like, oh, you have to. It's more like, hey, if you're willing. And I have found that even in some of the stuff that's uncomfortable, being willing to share it with somebody has
Mhm.
brought out kind of a level of trust with that person, but
Yep.
also um making sure that I'm being authentic with myself. Because
Yes.
why, I
Oh,
don't want to
yeah.
share something that's just, oh, here's what she wants to hear, because it's not about her, it's about
No.
me.
Yes. Do
And
you know I had once it's so funny. I don't take very many like, I have my coaches who are amazing and then I oversee all of them and coach like I just keep track of everything. And once a year I take on a client myself. I don't even feel
mm,
like I'm as good as the coaches are because I have so many other things going on. But once a year I take a client and last year I took a client, he was a man. And
oh,
I never
okay.
take men. But he really was like, I need this. I really got to do this. And he told me what I wanted to hear. He never actually did any of it.
Oh,
And I was like, well, first of all, he paid a lot of money for me to be his coach.
yes.
It was crazy. And he kept telling me what he thought I wanted to hear. And then by the end of a couple of months, he's like, yeah, I haven't actually done any of it. And I'm like, why would you do that? This isn't about me. This is about you. And then you realize it's like
Mhm.
so much deeper. And I think those people like you, Kathy, who are so successful, recognize the need to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's like it's why we get very, very intent in you telling us your why. First of all, on a
Hmm.
very first call, because we gotta believe that you've got to be in it more for the number on the scale. You just have to,
Yeah.
but that you're really interested in digging into the heart versus the ego. And a lot of people might still be at the ego, but that they're willing to consider going for reasons of the heart. And you
Hmm.
can't get to the reasons of your heart until you're vulnerable. And you can't get
Yeah.
vulnerable unless you really get somebody that's going to pull it out of you.
Yeah. And just, I mean, we have daily interactions,
Yeah.
and the cool thing is, like, I think last week my schedule was a little hectic, so I wasn't, I was doing, um, so the morning routine, the best thing. I mean, that little piece right there is a game changer. But so I'm kind of like, because
Wait, say
before,
more
a lot
about
of
that.
perfection.
Wait a minute.
Well,
That's so funny, right? Because you're
my
talking about nutrition, health, but morning routine?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, my typical the morning routine that I've had for years would be, I get up, I make my husband coffee, I have coffee, I sit, and then I'll just pick up whatever book I'm reading, and just, even for a little bit until the kids get up and take care of the kids, and then the day goes by. And then, but as I'm going through the learning and doing it differently, that set me up for procrastination, for not having any kind of desire to jump into the things that need to get done
Yep.
until they have to get done.
Yes.
And the morning routine has been like complete life changer, where I tend to lean towards a little bit of the, like, perfectionism, and, like, oh, if I can't do it completely the whole way, then I just want to get started. But even signing it up, because I have a quiet, I have my quiet time list, and I still have it in front of me, because I just need that, okay, I'm doing this first. Because a lot of times, I was talking to Michelle about this, I'll be like, well, I just feel like I want to do this other part first. Nope. I need to quiet myself. I need to kind of go through that
Oh,
process, and
good.
then get to the part to set myself up well.
And I love that you actually
And
made those decisions, right? It's like, I truly try to set you up with a philosophy and somewhat of a framework,
mhm,
but then you get to choose. And I think that that's what's so
yeah,
important, as opposed to, it's like, I'm never going to tell you what you can't eat. You're going to make
yeah,
decisions for yourself, but I'm going to educate you. I'm not going to tell you exactly how you do morning time or morning routine, but like, I'm going to talk to you about why it's so important and how you can consider structuring it. The big difference is you listened. And I think that's what's so important, right? Like, you picked up the bowling ball to bowl.
yeah. I had no idea that it would make as big a difference as it's made. I have, and I think, because some of that lethargy and apathy was just not having direction. And
Mhm.
now, I mean, I'm waking up, I'm feeling, so I will tell you, like, physically, I am feeling so much better. I am, kind of the physical changes are happening, but I feel like the emotional changes, like, are a bigger win right now. I
Isn't that
have
funny?
something, I've got that. Mhm.
I hear it all the time. Like, I hear
Totally
people.
unexpected.
Yes, like, the physical stuff is, like, happening, right? Where they're either losing inches or weight, or they, whatever, they have more energy, their workouts are different, like, all the physical things that they thought they really wanted, that was the most important part, and it always becomes secondary. They tell me about all these other things, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, and by the way, you know,
Mhm.
all these things are happening to me physically too." And I just think
Mhm.
that that tells you something about where your priorities are and where your mindset is about what you
Mhm.
need. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So
So,
keep going.
um, last week, because in the 5-day challenge, you had said, don't ghost your chip. If you or something about there was something that I don't remember what point, but don't ghost your coach. Don't do
Yes.
that. That
I think I
they're
said
for
that in the
you.
beginning. After you said yes, I probably
Yes.
said, and why do I have to say that, Kathy? Why do you think that had to actually be said?
Well, because people do it, especially when they're running into, like, oh, I haven't done my homework, or I haven't done something, and I'm going to disappoint, or I don't want to feel shame or whatever. So people
Hmm.
kind of will be like, all right, well, we'll just kind of wait. But I kind of had to reprioritize my day, because that's a lot of early things going on. And then, so I was actually doing my learning in the evening instead of
Okay.
in the morning, like I
Yep.
had been. And then I was sending her the stuff the next morning. And on one of them, I'm like, I promise I'm not ghosting you. I'm not. And she's like, you know what? I know you at this point, and I know that, so there was that trust given back to me, in that,
Yes.
oh, I trust you to know what
Yes.
you're doing, instead of, her being any kind of a authority figure with that kind of bad attitude. And that was actually really empowering too, having
Mm.
that, that back and forth of, there is an accountability piece, but there's also a lot of kind of cheerleading and support, where I needed it. And
It's
so,
interesting though, what you said about trust, because that's really the big thing about what we're trying to help you build with your body, trust,
mhm,
because it makes such a difference. And when your body can trust you and you can trust your body, that changes everything. It's like any other relationship. And I always say, like, your coach can become your friend
mhm,
and your biggest cheerleader, but also that person that's going to continue to push your thinking, but it comes from a place of love because you have trust. And I love
yeah,
that.
mhm,
Super important.
yeah.
So keep going. Let's keep going on where, like, when you can kind of describe, if you could describe in a few words what your life was like just back in March and how you would describe your life now, less than 3 months later.
My life back in March was very unproductive, and and then because of that, a lot of guilt. Because
Mm,
I hold a couple different volunteer positions and I take care of them, but I'm not ahead of them. So
mm,
there's because so there's always that feeling of just like weight on my chest for that things, and then even even like daily dinner where I know what time my husband get home. I know what time my kids need to eat. And I would just like get started in things so late that I should have started, when my daughter's at school or wherever. But then I end up like, I don't know, not doing my, kind of just wasting the day and
yeah.
then jumping on it. And then all of a sudden, instead of eating it at 6, kind of right, now it's 8. And then
Hmm.
I feel, then and then I didn't start eating until 1 or 2. So then I'm just starving, and then it's just this big. So I just felt my stomach hurt all the time. My stomach
Mm,
hurt but it wasn't like acid reflux or
hmm.
anything because and I just felt just, just terrible all the time.
Hmm.
Not enough to go to the doctor because it was just that low level. I know I'm doing something wrong. I know there's probably
Hmm.
something that I'm eating, and all these different things. And
And if you had gone to
so
the doctor, your doctor may have just put you, done some blood tests or
exactly.
something and put you on medication.
Yep. Here's some stuff.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And I knew I don't want to go down that route.
Well,
So,
especially if, like, you're saying, "I'm tired, I'm like, I don't have energy, I have cravings," whatever it is, then it's suddenly like, "Oh, let's test your thyroid, let's test this," and it's like, how about we ask about what we're putting in our body, how we're serving our body, how we're showing up for
mhm,
ourselves, but those aren't the questions that are asked, so I'm so glad you
no.
actually took this route for yourself.
And some of the stuff talking about the cravings and all that, I mean, I just huge swings in cravings, and I crave sweet and salty and crunchy
Yeah,
and
I remember
convenient.
that.
And and then I was buying a lot of convenience foods because it's like, well, in the back of my mind, it's like, I know I'm going to have at least 2 to 3 days this week where, I'm going to have to get dinner like super quick, and I'm not going to want to deal with it. So here you go.
Mhm,
And it's crap food, quite
mhm.
honestly.
Yeah.
And
So
the
what's happening
interesting piece,
now?
well, now it's, it when I first started eating PFC, it took almost 3 weeks before I started feeling hungry. And that was one of the things I kept texting Michelle. I'm like, I'm just not hungry ever. I'm like, and she's like, okay, it's okay. It, and she just kept assuring me, it's okay. Your body is having to kind of figure stuff out. So just, if you're not hungry and do the half. And, so she was really good at just kind
And
of encouraging and being.
yes. And think about that. Like, when we talk about like listening to your body, there was no way
Mhm.
you could have because you and your body weren't talking the same language. Like,
Absolutely.
you just weren't hungry. So that's your
Not at
body being
all.
like, well, wait a minute, because we're all off over here. We're taking care of things on our own over here because she hasn't been taking care of us
Mhm.
over here. So we're
Mhm.
not communicating. We're not talking to her anymore. Right?
Yes, and it
Like,
was it was
yeah.
bizarre. And then about 3 weeks in, I think there was like, I gotta have so I'm like doing, I even had to set an alarm on my phone. All right.
To be able to
Okay.
eat
And
because your body
yep.
wasn't telling you. Yeah.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, I text her. I'm like, I felt hungry today.
I'm hungry.
Today I feel hungry, and now it is. It is that about every day, and my body is telling me. And I'm still not perfect, and kind of a lot of times because I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm home a lot.
Yeah.
So I have to get better at preparing myself when I leave. Having that
Mhm.
like a protein bar and HL5 or something in my purse every single time, because then a lot of times I'll have it in my purse and I'll use it, and then I don't restock. So
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are things, but it's kind of nice. You're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling okay. Oh yeah, it has been 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. And then the cravings, I have not had a craving since I started, which is just beyond what I ever expected. Now I have had boredom, like kind of like, oh, I'm kind of bored. I don't really want to be doing what I'm doing right now. So, but what's in the pantry? And
Yes.
you even have like tips and for that, I'm like, okay, what's really going on right now? What's really
Yes.
going on right now? And something I would never have asked myself or considered. I just go in and, kind of grab whatever's there that is calling my name for that point and move on.
Mhm.
And even having things out where, oh, there's an open bag of chips or there's an open bag of something. And I would just like pass by it and just take some and then pass by
Yeah.
it and take some. And now it's like, first of all, I don't have this, oh my gosh, I need to have it. But now it's super easy to just, seal it and put it back. And if someone else took it out, then, it's not something where I am constantly fighting the battle of, oh, that sounds so good right now.
I know. And that's
And
what's so crazy. Do you think, I mean, you can prove me wrong here, but I don't think you're going to. I always say that my clients can tell the difference between an emotional craving and an actual physiological craving. Can you do that?
I can, absolutely. Yeah.
Which you never would have been able to do before.
Mm-mm.
Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? Just that in and of itself. And I can almost like, you can't guarantee anything, right? Like, I don't know how people are going to show up. I don't know how people's bodies are always going to respond. I mean, I can guarantee that blood sugar stabilization is the core function of every single person's body. And if we can get that right, we're going to be able to get the other stuff right. But it's like, I can almost guarantee if you have cravings, you can experience not having cravings very, very quickly. Because it just
Hmm.
is story after story after story after story. And I can also tell you if you have cravings, it's because your blood sugar is not stabilized.
Yeah. And
It's amazing.
and even
And we
the
keep beating
whole
ourselves up,
idea,
you know?
yes. Well, even the whole idea of there is no bad food. It is protein, fats, and carbs. That's all it is. It's very basic. So it takes away because I've done. There was something I did for about 10 years. We did it once a year, and the first time I did it, and it's called Whole Life Challenge. You've probably heard of
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
And I the first time I did it, a lot of success, but then it didn't last because I already knew that, I don't like that style of eating is not something I agree with. So I would
Yep,
do it for the time. And then
yep.
my husband and I would do it together every year for about 10 years. And I think by the third year, it even stopped working completely. Like I didn't see any gains throughout that time. And I think
Because
we
your
did it a couple
body
years.
thrives on consistency,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. And
perfection.
mm-mm. So, kind of that idea of, well, there is no bad food and there is no, but if you're prepared and you're recognizing and, yeah, it's like, well, I can eat this. If you're always eating that way, of course it's going to be not good, but, kind of that it's a reset, it's like, oh, you have that meal, but then in 3 hours you reset
Yep,
and your body goes, okay, okay.
yep. It's so freeing. And for someone that recovered from an
Hmm.
eating disorder, it just gosh, it's just like a totally different way of
Yeah,
living. So what about parenting? You're a stay-at-home mom.
I
And I
am.
know that, I say this all the time, our own thoughts and our own beliefs, obviously, well, I say obviously, but I believed that I was doing fine with all my disordered stuff. I was doing fine. I was keeping it from
Hmm.
them. It wasn't impacting my parenting. And yet when my kids started talking about calories at 5 and 6 years old, it hit me like, oh, holy heck. So the way we parent obviously matters. We know that, but how we show up for ourselves impacts how we parent one way or the other.
Hmm.
So how has that shifted for you in the last few months?
Well, a lot of it. I have two adult sons,
Hmm.
and they're in college and they're doing their thing. And then I have a daughter who just started high school,
Hmm.
and with her, there we've had a lot of upheaval in the last year or last 2 years. She was diagnosed with epilepsy just coming out of her seventh grade year, um, and it's in a lot of ways it's still not controlled,
Hmm.
and so I am an engineer by training, and
Yeah.
so my first thing is always saying data. Let's get data,
Yes.
and I was the same. So my oldest son has autism,
Mhm.
And so for him, how I parented him was very controlling, very like in his business, making sure, because, life still had to happen. We still had to make stuff happen.
Right.
And I couldn't do it on his schedule.
Right.
So, she grew up with that. So when all of this went down for her, I kind of went into that same mode. And for her, that was not how she was going to handle it. She just
Mm.
completely shut down because I wasn't meeting her where she was at. I was
Mhm.
meeting me. I was meeting myself. I was getting my own needs
Wow.
met by like grilling her and making, and even advice from, fellow parents, and how, like, because they're like, well, you should manage it, because I had to completely step away and just let her be, and just kind of
Interesting.
come alongside her and
Yeah.
be, not, we're not friends, I'm still her
Yeah.
mom, but I'm also not grilling her and making her come up with things that I want to hear.
Mhm.
So, and it was a scary first year. It was really
Yeah.
scary having to back off and allow her to come up with her own words for what was going on, and
Mhm.
allowing her to actually come and trust me
Mhm.
instead of forcing that relationship. And there's a lot of stuff going on that she still needs help with, but it's me, again, it's kind of coming alongside her
Do
and
you think
and figuring out.
that level of self-awareness that you have now for yourself gives you that ability to be aware of what she needs even more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not, because you get that fixated on all the things you need to fix.
Mhm.
And, there's so many things that I was like, well, I have all these things I need to fix in me. So I'll just fix them in them instead. And
Yeah, I
not,
mean,
then I don't have to
that's
worry about
totally
fixing
true.
me.
Yes, and
Hmm.
then you don't have to fix it in yourself because 'cause you're focused on
Yep.
fixing there.
Yep.
That's a huge level of self-awareness. I always say that this is a journey of self-discovery,
Oh yeah.
and it's, to get something different, you've gotta do something different, and, you took a leap of faith by saying, "Okay, I gotta do
Hmm.
something different because I want something different," and now in just a few months, it's things are different. It's just I want everybody to be that up-leveled version of themselves, the potential
Hmm.
that's in there somewhere, but we get all, like, confused and turned around, and, it's like this GPS that allows us to, like, now we get into the right direction, you know?
Hmm.
I'm so
Hmm.
proud of you. So let's talk as we kind of wrap things up. We know that this is not about 3 months and done. This is not about it
Hmm.
works and then it's not going to magically all just continue. You're going to have to cultivate this new relationship between you and your body and
Hmm.
stay married to yourself, if you will. So, how are you planning? What is your cultivation plan? That's what I like to call it, right? Like, how are you going to continue to show up? And where's that confidence coming from that you're going to be able to do that?
Well, I still have one more month in the
Yep.
trifecta, so I still
Yep.
have a lot of learning to do.
Yep.
And you know what? And then I look back, like, there's still a lot to catch up on. So I've been very good of not going into the other things that I
Yeah.
like, because there's these book studies. I'm like, oh, I want to do that one. Okay, just
Yeah.
wait. Just wait. Oh, there's all these coaching jobs. Okay, wait, just wait. Like,
Yep.
because it's meeting me where I'm at as well. And so I think it is by being engaged, engaged in the learning, staying engaged in the book study, staying engaged as things come up, and being available. Even the membership, the Facebook, being
Oh, our
engaged in
Facebook
that.
group.
And
Yep.
I don't post that much, but I am at least going on and liking and kind
Yeah.
of supporting through that, because all of that stuff creates those reminders of, what am I
Yes.
doing? What am I
Yes.
keeping up with? Why am I doing this? And then it's supporting other people in their journey as well. And I'm sure I will, I'm just absent-minded with all of that. But that having that community post and going through it, but also post, is, I think, is vital.
Yeah. I
And then,
totally agree.
mhm. And then the realization that, if I need to do a reset, the tools are there. I
Yep.
don't have to, and then I get to choose when I do it.
Yep.
And honestly, I will tell you, the fact you have like the habit training group and all those things going on right now. And when you said, no, it's not, if you're in it, I'm like, what? but I want to do that.
I know.
So
So
even
yeah,
those things I'm excited about
I
because
know.
that's
So for those people
continuing.
that don't know, because if you know, you know, but throughout we want our clients to be with us for a lifetime. That's super important to us because
Hmm.
you can't fall away and think it's just gonna keep going, right? This is a journey. This
Yep.
is this is a continuation of a lifestyle. That's what this is. But when I say if you're in the honeymoon, which you're just finishing up your
Yeah.
honeymoon or
Yeah.
you're getting towards the end of
Yep.
it, then these extra things we're just going to hold off until your cultivation plan. So I knew you were really excited about some of those little small groups that we're doing, but yes,
Hmm.
you're going to hold off a little bit more. But then you're going to be able to unlock power hours too, which are small group
Yeah.
workshops that you're going to be able to do and just make sure you're staying on track, right? And keeping your
Yeah.
goals front and center and intentionality. And I think that's the big thing that I'm hearing from you. It's like I'll hear people say, well, I do a morning routine. But to your point, you might have had done some sort of routine in the morning, but was it intentional? Was it moving you towards what you said you wanted? And if not,
Hmm.
how do we adjust it so we can meet you where you are so you're making that 1% progress every day? And
Right.
you've just embraced this though. I love to say that I put the gutter guards down so you're not going to go in the gutter. Like when you're
Hmm.
bowling, right? You might not always hit a strike, you might not hit any pins, but you're not going to go in the gutter. And the more you
Yeah.
bowl, the better you're going to get at it. But at the end of the day, you have to pick up the bowling ball. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to share your story because you have consistently picked up the ball and you continue to throw it down the lane. And
Yeah.
when Coach Michelle K reached out to me too, because I love to make
Hmm.
sure I know what's always happening. She's just she loves coaching you. And
Oh,
there are
good.
three things. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to unlearn because we all come with
Hmm.
a lot of baggage and a lot of things that we've tried or that we think we know. And then you have to be coachable. And I think that's true about every aspect of life, right? Whatever we're
Hmm.
doing. And you epitomize that.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
when I had that call with you, I was like, I could always tell when somebody is going to be a good fit, when we're going to be able to
Hmm.
be successful. I try to have a good eye on that.
Yeah.
And some people get frustrated if like they have a call and we say you're just not ready yet. And
Hmm.
they're like, what do you mean? You
Yeah.
can just tell. And
Yeah.
so you're ready. You're ready. And I think you could probably even see how my whole goal is that you could be your own nutrition coach, but you could
Yeah.
also coach others. And not everybody wants to
Hmm.
go and be a nutrition coach, but you could.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And there's it's kind of interesting because it is true. My mom is being put on a different diet for some health reasons. So I've been kind of like, and she's very particular. So I've been just like, hey, mom, what if we tried this? What if we? So
Ah,
I'm kind of starting to just kind of give her a little bit
yep.
of those pieces, So I'm like, yeah, mom, I'll work with you. It'll be okay.
Nice. I
Because
love
the hard
that.
part is, the doctors, they'll just say something and they'll be, and not faulting the doctors, but I know I've heard this so many times. They're given like a
They
semester
just
in
don't
nutrition.
know.
They
Right.
don't, and so, and then if you have multiple doctors, this one's saying for this disorder you're doing this, and then for this one you're doing this. So then you're kind of like left with So yes, I'm going to start working with her on kind of like
I
giving
love
her
that.
a slower, a little more modified, but still in that same range of
Yep.
like, hey, mom, this is what you want to look for, and kind of get her
Isn't that
something.
so cool? So
It is.
so this is a question I always ask. Who else benefits from you figuring this out? So who else has benefited and who will
Well,
benefit?
definitely my family, because I am cooking, and I will tell you, the recipe vault is, I've cooked almost every night and something different. And there have been probably only one where they're like, yeah, that one's not my favorite. But most of them are like, oh yeah, make this one again. Oh yeah, make this one
Oh, I
again.
love that.
And it's stuff that,
Have you seen the rating
I'm
scale?
excited
Have you
about
seen
it.
the rating scale that we have in there? People always miss
No,
it.
I haven't.
Go
I
in
haven't
there,
seen
go at
it.
the top, and
Okay.
there's a family rating scale, and it's like you could write down all the recipes and they can all vote. Like there's like for 4 family members and they can put how many stars they think it is. It's fun.
Okay. I
Yeah.
will look for that.
Yeah. I love
Um,
that. The recipe vault is
yes.
amazing.
It really is.
For people listening, they're like, how do I get in the recipe vault? We open the recipe vault a couple times a year to outside clients. So just, you can go to disruptivenutrition.com/recipes, get on the wait list, but you get a bunch of recipes while you're
Yeah.
waiting. I love it. We cook
Yeah.
from it every single
I
night.
love it. And I will tell you, I was in a rut and just doing the bare minimum. And now it's like, and I love to cook, but I stopped, all of it was just, again, the
Yep.
apathy, that just whatever.
Yep.
And now it's like, I'm back, I have, so the shopping list, I'm all in that. I've got my Costco list, I've got my Trader Joe's list,
I
I've got my
love
grocery
it.
store list, and I probably had only maybe 2 nights where I was like caught where I I was not prepared,
Mhm.
but then I was able to kind of quickly, like, what do I have? All right, I can still make a PFC, I can still do it. Um and it was one of like, well, it's not green light, but it's correct.
Yeah.
So we still made it through, and
It's not about being perfect. It's just
mhm,
about when you can do. And
yeah.
you were that person that was sort of like, I feel like I know what to do. I just don't do it. And now
Yes, absolutely.
you're
Mm,
doing it. And I
I
think
am
we've
doing it.
tweaked a little bit of what you know, and given you
Mhm,
more tools, but now you're doing it. And so we're going
mhm.
to have to do another episode and follow up with you in another 3 months to
Okay.
prove that people do stick with this. So no pressure, but there you
No.
go. There's a little bit of
All right.
accountability for you.
I got it.
I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
I can't wait to see how you cultivate this marriage and continue to do it between you and your body, and
Thank
how many
you.
other people get to benefit from all that you're learning and
Mhm.
all that you're doing. I am just thrilled and can't wait to see more. Thank you for being here and sharing your
Thank
story.
you for
If
having me.
you are watching this, comment what you're taking away from this, because I know it's always so amazing to be able to, for the person on the other end, like Cathie, to be able to know that you're inspiring others. And I think that's amazing how in just a few months you're just in a totally different place. And who would have thought
Mhm.
that you'd be doing a
I know.
podcast talking about this right now, right?
Not me, not at all.
I
So
love it.
I'm famous now. Famous.
High five. Give me a high five, girl.